The heavy vermilion doors of the Marquis Manor exploded inward with a deafening crash. Wood splinters flew through the air as a tall figure in black robes strode through the wreckage, backlit by the afternoon sun. His presence alone silenced the mocking laughter that had filled the grand hall moments before. Time seemed to freeze. The sneers died on their lips. Lady Helena's triumphant smile turned to ash. Marquis Theodore's teacup shattered on the floor. "You dare call my son a bastard?" The man's voice was colder than winter's bite. "You dare lay hands on my consort?" Old Adrian's tear. Stained face lit up with recognition. He broke free from my arms and ran toward the imposing figure, his small voice cutting through the stunned silence. "Father, they're hurting Mother," they said. "Adrian is a bastard. They wanted to beat me." The regent Prince Sebastian held our son, his phoenix eyes, identical to Adrian's, blazing with fury as he surveyed the cowering aristocrats before him. "My consort, my heir, and you presume to judge them." This is how my revenge began. But the story starts 5 years earlier, with betrayal, poison, and a night that changed everything. Hola, what do you think of our story? Your support is my motivation to keep updating. Feel free to click on the homepage to see more of the full story. Please make sure you're in a comfortable position. We'll begin the main story shortly. Leave a comment below and tell us which city you read our story in. 5 years. Mother, are we home? In my arms 5-year-old Adrian lifted his small face. Those phoenix eyes, so like his, sparkled with curiosity about the unknown world before us. I lowered the carriage curtain and held him tighter, answering softly, "Yes, we've arrived. But Adrian, you must remember, the people here may not welcome us. Stay close to Mother. Don't be afraid." Adrian isn't afraid. He patted my hand with endearing maturity. "Adrian will protect Mother." Warmth flooded my heart, followed by a wave of bitterness. These 5 years, we had lived together in a country estate, just the two of us. He was my only comfort. If not for my stepmother Helena's harshly worded letter, threatening me with my birth mother's memorial tablet, I would never have returned to this cold prison. The carriage stopped. The manor steward, Elder Marcus, lifted the curtain. His face, once warm toward me, now showed only cold indifference. "Young mistress, please enter. The Marquis and lady have been waiting in the main hall for quite some time." His gaze briefly swept over Adrian beside me, flashing with contempt before looking away. I took Adrian's hand and climbed the familiar steps. The manor's servants stood at a distance, pointing and whispering. Their undisguised scorn and mockery pierced me, like countless needles. Entering the main hall, an oppressive atmosphere engulfed us. My father, Marquis Theodore, sat rigidly in the seat of honor, expressionlessly sipping tea, as if we were merely two inconvenient presences. Beside him sat my stepmother, the woman who had replaced my mother, Lady Helena, dressed in expensive silks, her face well maintained. She wore a hypocritical smile of false kindness, waiting to watch me humiliated. "Oh my dear Serafina has finally returned. How I've missed you." Helena stood with feigned affection, but her eyes fixed on my son like a venomous snake. "So this is the child you bore outside. Look at those features, quite handsome, actually. What a pity. He is a fatherless bastard." Her words, though not loud, cut straight to the heart, echoing clearly throughout the hall. I pushed Adrian behind me, my nails digging into my palms. I stared coldly at her. "Did you summon me back just to say this, Lady Helena? Sister, how can you speak to Mother like that?" A delicate voice rang out. My half-sister Vivienne emerged from behind Helena, looking at me with feigned innocence. "Mother is concerned about you. An unmarried young woman returning with a child. If word spreads, what will become of our entire Marquis Manor's reputation?" I looked at this mother-daughter pair, their performance so well rehearsed, and laughed bitterly inside. 5 years ago, weren't they the ones who drugged my wine and brought in a filthy beggar to destroy my virtue? If I hadn't fought desperately to escape, How would I have ended up wandering homeless with nowhere to go? Seeing my silence, Helena assumed I was cowed. Her smile deepened. She picked up her teacup, blew on it gently, and spoke with deliberate slowness. Serafina, you're not getting any younger. These years raising a child alone outside. You must have suffered greatly. Now I've found you an excellent match. Consider it fulfilling our duty as parents. Alarm bells rang in my mind. I asked calmly, what match? Helena set down her teacup, her eyes glinting with satisfaction. As if pronouncing my final judgment. Minister Reginald of the Treasury Department is quite taken with you, though the minister is somewhat advanced in years. He just celebrated his 60th birthday and has lost 3 previous wives. His family fortune is substantial. He truly cares for you and has promised that if you marry him, he'll give your son legitimacy by registering him under his name. Most importantly, Minister Reginald has pledged to secure your brother a good position in the Ministry of Personnel. A thunderclap exploded in my mind. Minister Reginald, that lecherous old man past 60, who had tormented 3 wives to death, they wanted to push me into that hellfire and trade my entire future for their biological son's career advancement. I refuse. I nearly shouted these 3 words, my body trembling with rage. Insolent. My father Theodore, silent until now, slammed his teacup down heavily, his rebuke cutting through the air. Your marriage is not yours to decide. You've disgraced our family name and brought back this bastard, already bringing shame upon the house. To marry Minister Reginald as his replacement, wife is a blessing earned over several lifetimes. Speak out of turn again, and you'll face family punishment. His icy words were like a poisoned blade, completely shattering my last shred of illusion about the word father. Helena chimed in with false concern. My lord, don't be angry. Serafina is still young and doesn't understand. Someone, take the young mistress and that child to the woodshed. Lock them up to calm down. They can come out once they've thought things through. Immediately, 2 burly matrons stepped forward, their faces menacing as they advanced on us. I dare anyone to try. I held Adrian tightly, my eyes blazing with unprecedented hatred. Defiant are you. Helena's face darkened. She shrieked. What are you waiting for? Seize her. A woman who has lost her virtue dares to make trouble in the Marquis's manor. The matrons, having received their orders, immediately reached for my arms. Clutching Adrian, I retreated repeatedly until backed against the wall with nowhere to go. Despair washed over me like icy seawater, drowning me inch by inch. At that moment, Adrian suddenly broke free from my embrace with all his strength. His small body blocked my front, arms spread wide like an angry little beast, releasing an earth-shattering roar at the hall full of villains. Don't you dare bully my mother. Adrian's voice rang clear and bright, carrying childish innocence, yet containing undeniable determination. His small frame stood ramrod straight like a stubborn little pine tree, shielding me. The entire hall fell into momentary silence after this sudden outburst. Helena was first to react, as if hearing the world's greatest joke. She covered her mouth and giggled, her eyes full of contempt and disdain. My. How remarkable, a bastard with quite the temper. She turned to Vivienne with mocking words. Vivienne, look at this. The child does have some loyal spirit, like a little wolfhound from our back courtyard. Vivienne immediately understood, also covering her lips with a light laugh. Mother is right, sister. Where did your child learn such manners? Not only does he fail to bow to his elders, but he dares to shout at them. Truly no upbringing at all. The mother and daughter sang in harmony as servants in the hall joined in with suppressed snickers. Those gazes, like sticky venom, brazenly swept over us. I trembled with rage, pulling Adrian back into my arms, my back to those malicious stares. I stroked his slightly trembling spine, my heart breaking. I'd rather endure all the humiliation myself than have my child face the ugliest parts of human nature at such a tender age. Adrian, don't be afraid. Mother is here, I whispered to comfort him, but Adrian lifted his head in my arms. In those bright phoenix eyes, a stubborn flame now burned. He looked at me and spoke with utmost clarity. One word at a time, mother. I'm not a bastard. I have a father. My father is the regent prince. My father is Sebastian. The moment those 6 words, Regent Prince Sebastian, left his lips, the air in the entire hall seemed to freeze. Even my father Theodore, who had been sitting immovably, imperceptibly trembled as he gripped his teacup. Sebastian, what manner of man was he? He wielded power over the entire court, his word law, a living king of hell. Legend said he was nearly 30 yet untouched by women. His methods ruthless. Even the emperor showed him deference. Throughout the entire Dajing dynasty, who didn't know his name, who hadn't heard of him, the silence lasted only 3 seconds. The next moment, laughter erupted, even more fierce and unbridled than before, exploding thunderously through the hall. Ha ha ha, I'm dying, the regent prince. Helena laughed until tears streamed down her face. Seraphina, oh Seraphina, you've truly taught your child well. Such an outrageous lie, and he dares speak it. Vivienne laughed so hard she couldn't straighten up. She pointed at Adrian, addressing the surrounding maids and matrons. Listen. Everyone listen, he says his father is the regent prince. This is the funniest joke I've heard all year. What kind of man is the regent prince? How could he possibly notice a deflowered woman, much less father such an ignorant bastard? Exactly, it is like a toad lusting after swan meat. The child must be mad. The servants' discussions and mocking laughter surged like a tide. They looked at Adrian with pity and contempt, as if watching a fool lost in delusions. Adrian's small face instantly turned deathly pale. He clutched my sleeve, his body trembling uncontrollably. He couldn't understand why telling the truth brought only everyone's ridicule. I didn't lie. I didn't. He protested tearfully, helplessly. Mother's jade pendant has the character Yuan carved on it. My father is the regent prince. What he spoke of was a piece of warm jade my birth mother had left me. It indeed bore the ancient character Yuan, one of the characters in my late mother's given name. Adrian, seeing it since childhood, had assumed it was his father's name, but to Helena and the others, this explanation only seemed more laughable. Enough. Helena finally finished laughing. She composed herself, her expression instantly turning vicious. Seraphina, I wanted to leave you some dignity. But since you're so obstinate, teaching your spawn such nonsense to climb social ladders, don't blame me for being ruthless. Gag that little bastard's mouth and drag him out for a beating. I want to see if the regent prince will come to save him. You dare, my eyes blazed as I shielded Adrian behind me. The matrons sneered as they advanced. Young mistress, forgive us. I watched their hands reaching toward us in despair, a towering hatred surging in my heart. If we were to die here today, I would drag this poisonous mother and daughter to hell with us. At this critical moment, bang, an earth-shattering crash rang out. The Marquis Manor's heavy vermilion doors were kicked open from outside with a single blow. Through flying wood splinters, a tall figure in black robes appeared, backlit against the sun, carrying a bone-chilling, thunderous momentum as he entered this filthy domain. The hall's laughter cut off abruptly. In that instant, time seemed to stand still. All the noise and mockery was crushed to dust by the overwhelming presence emanating from the doorway. Everyone froze in place, staring in terror toward the entrance. Sunlight poured in behind him, gilding his form with a golden outline too brilliant to look upon directly. His tall frame, broad shoulders, and narrow waist were draped in a black python robe, embroidered with intricate cloud patterns in gold thread. As he moved, it seemed black flames flowed around him. He wore no crown. His black hair was bound only with a jade pin. His face was divinely handsome yet cold as millennial ice. Especially those eyes, phoenix eyes of unfathomable depth, sharp as blades, seeming to pierce straight through to the soul. It was him. Oh, 5 years had passed, though that night he'd been poisoned and delirious. I would never forget those eyes, not until death. My blood nearly froze in that moment. And Adrian standing before me, the moment he saw who had arrived, His dimmed eyes suddenly lit up with stars filling the sky. "Father." His voice choked with tears as he stumbled forward like a nestling returning to the forest, running toward that man. The entire hall fell silent enough to hear a pin drop. Helena and Vivienne's faces still wore their frozen expressions of triumph and mockery, now looking utterly ridiculous. Their eyes bulged like copper bells, mouths agape enough to fit an egg, the color draining from their faces at visible speed. My father, Marquis Theodore, dropped his teacup with a crash. It shattered on the floor. He rolled and crawled down from his seat, falling to his knees with a thud, his voice shaking uncontrollably. I didn't know the Regent Prince was arriving. This subject failed to welcome you properly. I deserve death. The Regent Prince. It is really the Regent Prince. Heavens, the manor's servants, utterly terrified, fell to their knees in waves, not daring to lift their heads. Sebastian ignored the hall full of kneeling figures. All his attention focused on the small figure running toward him. As Adrian was about to reach his legs, this man, legendary for his decisive killing and cold ruthlessness, actually bent down, extended his arms, and steadily caught that small body. He lifted Adrian with one hand, settling him in the crook of his arm. The two faces, one large and one small, at such close distance, were so clearly cut from the same mold that coincidence could no longer explain it. Sebastian looked down at Adrian's tear-stained face. Those eyes that could silence the entire court revealed a trace of confusion and shock even he hadn't noticed. "What did you call me?" His voice was low and hoarse, carrying uncertainty. "Father." Adrian reached out his small hands, tightly clutching his robe as if grasping the whole world's support. He buried his face in Sebastian's neck, crying out all his grievances. "Father, they bullied Mother. They said Adrian is a bastard. They were going to beat me." Sebastian's body holding Adrian clearly stiffened. His gaze slowly traveled over Adrian's head, across half the hall, and finally landed precisely on my face. It was a gaze of extreme complexity, shocked, probing, doubting, and containing a deeply buried pain and fury even I couldn't comprehend. Had he been searching for me all these 5 years? I met his eyes, my heart a tumult of emotions. After the shock passed, an icy hatred and resolution quickly seized my heart. I was no longer the ignorant girl of 5 years ago, subject to anyone's abuse. All the suffering of these 5 years, I would claim back with interest today. Sebastian's gaze lingered on my face a moment before slowly turning to Helena and Theodore, kneeling and trembling like sieves on the ground. His voice wasn't loud, but each word fell like ice shards on everyone's hearts. "My consort, my heir, you dared to touch them." "See, consort, heir," Helena's teeth chattered. She jerked her head up, looking at me in disbelief, then at Adrian in Sebastian's arms. She seemed drained of her very soul. Sebastian paid them no further mind. Holding Adrian, he walked toward me with steady, measured steps. Each footfall seemed to land directly on Helena and Theodore's hearts. He stopped before me. His towering frame completely enveloped me. That familiar scent of dragon's musk incense, mixed with a trace of travel, worn coldness, instantly surrounded me. I suppressed the tremor in my heart, completing the psychological shift from shock to composure. I didn't weep and complain like ordinary women, nor did I rush to acknowledge our connection. I simply raised my head calmly, meeting his probing gaze, then slowly turned to face the ashen-faced Helena. I smiled slightly, a smile devoid of warmth, containing only bone, deep coldness. "Lady Helena," I spoke softly, yet every word reached everyone's ears clearly. "The Regent Prince is here. Would you care to repeat which minister you wanted to marry me off to? Perhaps you could say it again for His Highness to hear." Those words landed like a resounding slap across Helena's face. Her body shook violently. Her lips trembled, unable to form a single word. My smile grew colder as I continued. "And Adrian, didn't you just say you wanted to gag his mouth and drag him out for a beating? Why stop now? Could it be you've realized the Regent Prince's heir is beyond the Marquis Manor's authority to punish?" Each sentence pierced like a knife. Before Sebastian's very eyes, I was returning their vicious acts intact. I wanted them to taste what it felt like to fall from heaven into hell. Helena couldn't bear it anymore. Her eyes rolled back as she collapsed straight backward. "Mother," Vivienne shrieked, catching her. My dear father Theodore had completely crumpled to the floor. He crawled toward Sebastian, kowtowing repeatedly, "Your Highness, spare us." This subject was blind. This subject failed to manage his household. I didn't know Serafina was your consort. From beginning to end, Sebastian hadn't spared him a single glance. His gaze remained locked on my face, emotions churning in those deep eyes that I couldn't decipher. After a long moment, he reached out, gently touching my cheek. His fingertips were cool. "5 years," he said hoarsely. "You dared hide with my son for 5 years." The Regent Manor's carriage was 100 times more spacious than the Marquis Manor's. I held Adrian as we sat on soft brocade cushions. Sebastian sat across from us. For a time, the carriage held only the sound of rolling wheels. Adrian, perhaps exhausted from crying or finally having found support, now slept peacefully in my lap. I looked down at my son's sleeping face, my emotions complex. "Why didn't you come find me?" Sebastian's voice suddenly broke the silence. His gaze burned intensely, as if trying to see through me. I raised my eyes, calmly meeting his. "Your Highness holds power over the entire court. I, a disgraced woman cast from her family, carrying a child of unknown paternity, how could I search? And having found you, what would I say? Should I announce to the world that you, the mighty regent prince, once consorted with a ruined woman and fathered an illegitimate child?" My words were like soft knives, each striking at the most sensitive points. Sebastian's expression darkened. The pressure around him dropped several degrees. "You think I would care about such empty reputation?" "I care," I replied, unflinching, as I met his gaze. "I, Serafina, can endure poverty and humiliation, but my son will never bear the stigma of illegitimacy, suffering others pointing fingers his entire life." The air in the carriage nearly crystallized into ice. Sebastian stared at me, his chest heaving. After a long while, as if deflated, he leaned back against the carriage wall and closed his eyes. His voice carried a trace of exhaustion. "It was I who failed to protect you both." That single concession instantly cracked all the ice in my heart. Upon returning to the Regent Manor, Sebastian directly settled us in his main courtyard, Tinglange Pavilion. When news spread, the entire manor was shocked. In the following days, Helena sent several lavish gifts. Sebastian ordered them all thrown out unopened. The Marquis Manor's main gate was placed under guard by Regent Manor soldiers, ostensibly to protect the consort's family, but effectively house arrest. I welcomed the peace, daily. Besides accompanying Adrian, I secretly observed the manor's personnel and power structure. I knew this battle had only just begun. Soon enough, opportunity arrived. News came from the palace. The Empress would host a flower-viewing banquet in the imperial gardens. She invited the capital's nobility and their families. The Regent Manor's invitation specifically requested Sebastian bring his consort and young heir. This would be my first official appearance before the powerful since returning to the capital. It was also Helena and Vivienne's only chance to strike back. They would never let it pass. "You don't have to go," Sebastian said, looking at me, his tone even. "I'll handle it." I shook my head, a cold smile playing at my lips. "No, I want to go." Some people only recognize defeat when their faces are thoroughly slapped. Sebastian saw the icy glint in my eyes. After a moment of silence, he nodded. "Very well. The manor's shadow guards are at your command." On the day of the banquet, I dressed Adrian in a small black brocade robe, matching Sebastian's, making him look even more precious and noble. I chose an elegant lake blue gown for myself, wearing no cosmetics, only a white jade hairpin. When our family of 3 appeared in the imperial gardens, we instantly commanded everyone's attention. Countless probing, curious gazes fell upon us like nets. I remained composed, walking beside Sebastian holding Adrian's hand, my bearing impeccable. Well, if it isn't young Mistress Seraphina. Oh, excuse me. I should say Princess Consort now. A sharp voice rang out. I looked toward the speaker. Helena stood arm in arm with Vivienne among several noblewomen, smiling without warmth. Vivienne today was dressed elaborately, her hair full of jeweled ornaments, forming a stark contrast to my simple elegance. Seeing me, jealousy flashed in her eyes before she assumed an innocent smile. Sister, you've finally arrived. The Empress was just asking after you. She approached familiarly, reaching to link arms with me. I subtly stepped back, avoiding her touch, and smiled lightly. You're too kind, sister. Vivienne's hand froze mid-air. Embarrassment crossed her face, but she quickly recovered her smile. From her sleeve she produced an exquisite sachet, offering it to Adrian. Adrian, this is a gift from your aunt. It is made with drunken immortal grass from the western regions. The scent is most calming. Smell it and see if you like it. She smiled with apparent warmth. I inwardly sneered while maintaining my composed expression. My late mother's secret medical texts recorded that drunken immortal grass alone had calming properties, but when mixed with phoenix tail flower pollen, commonly found in the imperial gardens, it created a toxin causing disorientation and even hallucinations. At that very moment, not far away, the crown prince accompanied several princes, viewing a cluster of blooming phoenix tail flowers. What a clever scheme. She wanted Adrian to contact the pollen, then lose control before the crown prince, offending the princes. Either way, I as his mother would be implicated, at minimum blamed for poor upbringing, at worst accused of endangering royal heirs. Such a charge could destroy me utterly. Thank you, Aunt. Adrian looked up, about to reach for it, but I intercepted the sachet first, bringing it to my nose for a delicate sniff. Then I smiled appreciatively. How fragrant, sister, you're so thoughtful. As I spoke, I imperceptibly rubbed a trace of colorless, odorless butterfly lure powder onto the sachet's tassel, something else my mother had left. Harmless to people, it attracted every butterfly within 10 li. Seeing me accept the sachet, satisfaction flickered in Vivienne's eyes, though she said, I'm glad sister likes it. Just then, a palace maid from the Empress's service came to summon us, saying the Empress wished to see young Adrian privately. Helena and Vivienne exchanged a triumphant glance. I knew their plan was beginning. I whispered instructions to Adrian, gave Sebastian a reassuring look, then let the wet nurse escort Adrian away with the maid. Sure enough, the moment Adrian left, Vivienne immediately pulled me toward the phoenix tail flowers with apparent enthusiasm. Sister, look how beautifully these phoenix tail flowers bloom. The crown prince and several princes are over there. Let's go pay our respects. Without waiting for response, she drew me toward them. I went along readily. When we were still 7 or 8 paces from the crown prince's party, sudden change erupted. Ah, my face, it itches so much. A piercing shriek tore through the imperial garden's harmony. Everyone looked. Vivienne, so composed moments before, now clawed wildly at her own face like a madwoman. Her force was such that she quickly scratched bloody furrows across her skin. Vivienne, what is wrong? Helena rushed forward in alarm, trying to grab her hands. But Vivienne, as if possessed, shoved Helena to the ground. She babbled incoherently. Don't touch me. Bugs. So many bugs biting me. Get away, all of you, get away. As she screamed, she frantically tore at her elaborate clothing. Within moments, she was disheveled, hair loose, nothing remaining of the capital's first talented lady. The crown prince and princes recoiled repeatedly, disgust plain on their faces. I simply stood there watching this farce she'd directed but ended up starring in herself, a cold smile curving my lips. Sister, what is wrong? I spoke with well-feigned surprise and concern. You were fine just moments ago. How did you suddenly? Could you have encountered some evil spirit? My words reminded everyone. Helena, as if grasping a lifeline, immediately pointed at me and shrieked. You, it was you, wasn't it? Seraphina. You bitch. You must have used some sorcery to harm my Vivienne. I blinked innocently. Lady Helena, you may eat carelessly, but you mustn't speak carelessly. How is sister's condition my fault? I never even touched her. It was that sachet you gave her, it must be. Helena suddenly seemed to remember something. She rushed over frantically, snatched the sachet from my hand, and held it high, appealing to the Empress. Your Majesty. It is this sachet. Serafina is vicious. She must have poisoned this sachet to harm Vivienne. All eyes focused on that delicate sachet. I inwardly sneered while deliberately showing hurt and fear on my face, shrinking slightly toward Sebastian. Sebastian stepped forward, completely shielding me. His cold gaze swept toward Helena, his voice devoid of warmth. Lady Helena, you may eat carelessly, but you must not speak carelessly. You claim this sachet is poisoned. Do you have proof? Helena sounded as if she'd heard the greatest joke. She pointed at the still, raving Vivienne. My daughter is the proof. If this sachet weren't poisoned, how would she be like this? Just then the imperial physician hurried over with several medical officers. The Empress commanded coldly, Physician Zhang, examine what is wrong with the second young lady. And test that sachet, see if there is truly a problem. Yes, Your Majesty. Physician Zhang first approached to examine Vivienne, but was scratched by her maddened state, helplessly. He had two strong eunuchs forcibly restrain her. After examination, his brow furrowed deeper. He stood and reported to the Empress respectfully. Your Majesty, the second young lady's pulse is chaotic, her mind confused, symptoms consistent with exposure to some hallucinogenic toxin, but the specific poison requires further study at the Imperial Medical Bureau. Hearing toxin, Helena grew more aggressive. You hear poison. She stared venomously at me. Serafina, what do you have to say? Physician Zhang ignored her, instead accepting the sachet from a palace maid. He carefully opened it, sniffed, then examined the contents closely. After a moment, he looked up, confusion on his face. Your Majesty, he said respectfully, the incense in this sachet is drunken immortal grass from the western regions. This substance has calming properties and is inherently non-toxic. What? Helena's shriek rang out again. Non-toxic. Impossible. If the sachet isn't poisoned, why would my daughter be poisoned? Physician Zhang hesitated before speaking. Drunken immortal grass is indeed non-toxic. But when it encounters phoenix tail flower pollen, it transforms into a rare poison called phantom butterfly powder. Those affected experience mild disorientation or severe madness, even death. The crowd erupted. Everyone's gaze involuntarily turned toward the nearby cluster of blooming phoenix tail flowers. Helena's face instantly turned deathly pale. She never imagined the poison her daughter prepared to harm others would be exposed by the imperial physician. No, impossible, she stammered incoherently. How would Vivienne know such things? This must be coincidence. It was Serafina. She deliberately led Vivienne to the phoenix tail flowers. I watched her death throes and found it merely laughable. I stepped forward from behind Sebastian, wearing an expression of compassionate sorrow, and sighed. Lady Helena, must you persist in delusion even now? I looked at her, speaking softly. Why sister was poisoned, surely you know in your heart. I paused, my gaze sweeping over those present. My voice remained soft yet carried clearly to all. From beginning to end, only sister touched this sachet. She gave it to Adrian, then deliberately led me to these phoenix tail flowers. If this is coincidence, it seems rather too convenient. You slander. Helena sputtered in rage. Whether I slander, everyone judges for themselves. I turned to the Empress, curtsying respectfully. Your Majesty, this subject is foolish. I knew nothing of the dangerous connection between drunken immortal grass and phoenix tail flowers. But sister, she is accomplished and well-read. Perhaps she read of it in some ancient text. I only wonder why she brought these phantom butterfly ingredients to this garden full of blooming flowers. What was her true purpose? My words struck like a blade straight into Helena and Vivienne's hearts. Indeed, why would a proper young lady carry such sinister poison ingredients? Recalling how the crown prince and princess had just been near those phoenix tail flowers, a terrible suspicion arose in everyone's minds, endangering royal heirs, a crime warranting clan extermination. The crown prince's expression instantly darkened ominously. Lady Helena, the empress's voice rang with authority and deep coldness. This matter requires explanation to me and to the crown prince. Helena's legs gave out. She collapsed completely to the ground, unable to speak. After the flower banquet scandal, imperial decree after decree rained down upon the Marquis's manor. But what truly destroyed Helena came 3 days later. That night, I infiltrated the Marquis's manor with shadow guard assistance. Using a truth serum my mother had taught me to make, I extracted a full confession from Emerald, Helena's most trusted maid and my late mother's former attendant. 5 years ago, it was Helena who drugged my wine and arranged the beggar. My mother's death wasn't from grief. Helena had poisoned her slowly over 3 years, using a Western toxin mixed into daily medicinal soups. I obtained both testimony and physical evidence, the remaining poison and letters proving the purchase. With these, I went straight to the Ministry of Justice. When investigators presented this evidence, especially the shocking revelation that the regent's mother-in-law had been murdered, the minister nearly fell from his chair. He immediately led forces to arrest the culprits. The scandal of the Marquis poisoning his first wife and the second wife, framing his legitimate daughter, spread through the capital within half a day. Citizens were shocked, outraged, denounced them. No one expected the seemingly upright Marquis to be such a beast in human clothing. As for me, Seraphine once mocked throughout the capital as a deflowered woman. I became an object of universal sympathy and admiration. The trial was swift. Before iron-clad evidence, Helena and Theodore's defenses crumbled. They confessed everything. By dodging law, murdering one's principal wife equaled patricide, punishable by lynching. Framing imperial relatives warranted additional punishment. Their fate was singular, death. Just as the ministry prepared to memorialize the throne requesting final judgment, an unexpected person intervened, the crown prince. He argued that since Marquis Manor's second young lady Vivienne was his study companion, the case might have hidden complexities and shouldn't be hastily concluded. Using this pretext, he forcibly suppressed the case. When news arrived, I wasn't surprised. Though Vivienne was indeed the crown prince's companion, more importantly, Marquis Theodore had long secretly aligned with him. The crown prince's intervention merely aimed to preserve one of his pawns and to challenge Sebastian's authority. Whether he could protect them remained to be seen. Sebastian, hearing Shadowguard's report, smiled with bloodthirsty intent. The storm brewing at court temporarily escaped my attention. I knew Helena and Vivienne wouldn't accept defeat meekly. Their mad retaliation would come soon. That day arrived quickly. The weather was pleasant. I accompanied Adrian on the courtyard swing. His laughter rang crystal clear, carrying far. Watching his innocent face, my heart filled with tenderness. Just then, an unfamiliar maid approached carrying a plate of delicate pastries. Princess Consort, young master, the kitchen made fresh milk cakes. His Highness specifically ordered them sent for the young master. She kept her head lowered, speaking respectfully. I examined the pastries, then the maid. My eyes narrowed slightly. I'd never seen this maid in Tinglange Pavilion. Moreover, Sebastian never allowed Adrian excessive sweets, much less specifically ordering milk cakes. Treachery. Alarm bells rang in my mind, though my expression remained unchanged. I smiled. How thoughtful. Set them down. Yes, princess. The maid placed the pastries and made to withdraw. Wait, I called. She stiffened, slowly turning with head bowed even lower. Does Princess Consort require anything else? I picked up the plate, walked to her, and held a piece to her lips, smiling warmly. These smell wonderful. The taste must be equally good. You worked hard bringing them. Have one yourself. The maid's body began trembling imperceptibly. I couldn't, princess. This servant isn't hungry. Her voice carried panic. Why? My smile instantly chilled. Is it that you dare not eat these pastries, or is there something unspeakable in them? The maid's face drained of color. Unable to maintain composure, she collapsed, kowtowing desperately. Princess, spare me. This isn't this servant's doing. It was second young mistress, Vivienne. She bribed me to poison the pastries. Vivienne again, I'd expected no less. Her nature couldn't let things rest. Poison. I laughed coldly. Let's see what kind. I handed the pastries to Shadow Guard 1. He produced a silver needle, piercing one. The needle didn't blacken, but that didn't mean no poison. I took a piece, sniffing carefully. Nearly imperceptible strange fragrance entered my nose. Not poison, soul lure incense. A substance driving beasts. Mad, making them lose reason and attack only the scent source. My heart sank. The manor's rear mountain housed several snow wolves, tribute from the western regions, used by Sebastian for hunting. These wolves were wild, untamed, exceptionally fierce. Vivienne actually intended. Such vicious scheming, disaster. Just then a servant responsible for the rear mountain beast enclosure came tumbling in, face full of terror. The rear mountain, the snow wolves somehow broke their iron chains. They've escaped and are heading this way. Before he finished, several fierce, savage wolf howls sounded from nearby, approaching rapidly. Courtyard servants immediately panicked, screaming and scattering. The poisoning maid was so frightened she wet herself. Mother, Adrian, face pale, clutched my leg tightly. Don't be afraid. Mother is here. I shielded Adrian behind me, my expression turning ice cold. Vivienne had truly thought highly of me. Knowing Tinglange Pavilion's tight security prevented ordinary assassins, she devised this scheme, borrowed blade murder. At this critical moment, a black-robed figure descended, like a god, landing steadily between me and the lead wolf. Sebastian, he'd returned somehow, gripping a gleaming longsword. Dare harm her. Towering killing intent burst from his eyes. His aura was colder, more savage than the snow wolves. The alpha, sensing lethal threat, forcibly halted its charge. It growled low, baring teeth in confrontation. Retreat, Sebastian commanded without turning, his voice low and powerful. I held Adrian, backing away step by step. The moment I reached safety, Sebastian moved. His figure flashed lightning fast. His sword became a silver dragon, bringing air, tearing howls as it struck the alpha. The wolf released an anguished howl. Blood sprayed. Its massive body was cleft from head to tail by Sebastian's single stroke. The scent of blood instantly filled the air. The remaining wolves, completely cowed by this bloody display, whimpered and retreated, tails between legs. Sebastian stood holding his blood, dripping sword beside the alpha's corpse, a killing god from hell's depths. He slowly turned, looking at me, confirming Adrian and I were unharmed. That world, destroying killing intent, gradually faded. He strode quickly forward, embracing us both tightly. His hold was scorching, powerful, yet carried imperceptible trembling. I was late, he said hoarsely, voice full of lingering fear and self-recrimination. I shook my head, burying my face against his chest, feeling his strong heartbeat. My suspended heart finally settled. No, your timing was perfect. The trial concluded swiftly. Helena and Theodore were sentenced to death by Lingche. Vivienne, though found mentally unstable, received white silk for self-execution, preserving her corpse intact. The Crown Prince's protection proved futile against iron evidence, and Sebastian's determination. 3 days later at noon, justice was served at the palace gates. I didn't attend. I refused to dirty my eyes or disturb my mother's spirit with such sights. Sebastian also stayed, accompanying Adrian and me as we flew kites in the manor gardens. Mother, father, look how high it flies. Adrian pulled the string, running excitedly across the grass, his laughter clear as silver bells. I watched his joyful figure, glancing at this mountain. Steady man beside me. Peace filled my heart. From now on, no more Marquis Manor shackles. No more Helena's schemes. No more wandering hardships. Vengeance complete. What remained was a fresh life. After the Marquis Manor was confiscated, my mother Sophia's incredible dowry naturally returned to me. When officials delivered thick stacks of property deeds, shop contracts, and banknotes, I calmly accepted them. These had always been rightfully mine. I didn't lock this wealth away. Instead, I made a decision surprising everyone. Half a month later, the capital's largest pharmacy, Zishatown Healing World Hall, changed hands overnight. I, Serafina, appeared publicly as the new proprietor. On opening day, I announced that henceforth, Healing World Hall would establish Dajing Dynasty's first free clinic for women and children. All medicines charged only cost. Those too poor for treatment paid nothing. The entire city erupted. Citizens cheered, calling me a living bodhisattva. Those who once mocked and scorned me now addressed me respectfully as Madame Serafina, Hallmaster. I was no longer anyone's daughter nor merely someone's consort. I was myself, Serafina, a woman who earned universal respect through her own abilities and controlled her own destiny. This was my grandest coronation, held for myself. Sebastian supported me completely. He not only assigned manor guards to maintain order at the clinic, but, in the regent's name, allocated rare medicinal materials from the national treasury to enrich my pharmacy. He stood behind me, watching as I treated poor children with acupuncture under the sunlight. Prescribed remedies for helpless women. His eyes held no princely hauteur, only full appreciation and adoration. He understood me, loved me. This was the finest love I could imagine. Another year passed. Autumn deepened again. Red leaves filled the streets. In the Regent Manor gardens, osmanthus fragrance floated. Sebastian sat in the pavilion, hand guiding Adrian in calligraphy practice. Adrian gripped his brush, small face serious, writing with utmost care. I returned from the clinic carrying the scent of medicine. Seeing this scene, I involuntarily lightened my steps. A gentle smile on my lips. Horizontal strokes level, vertical strokes straight. Mind upright, brush steady. Sebastian's low, patient voice sounded particularly pleasant in the quiet afternoon. Adrian looked up, saw me, and immediately dropped his brush, running over joyfully. "Mother, you're back." Smiling, I opened my arms, catching him fully. Sebastian also rose, walking over. Without a word, he naturally took my heavy medicine case. He looked at me, eyes brimming with tenderness and starlight, speaking softly. "You've worked hard, my princess consort, and our Madame Serafina of Healing World Hall." Sunlight filtered through the pavilion's flying eaves, dappling our family of three. Warm and peaceful, I leaned against him, watching Adrian chase butterflies tirelessly before us, my heart filled with unprecedented happiness and fulfillment. Past hatreds and hurts had scattered with the wind. What remained was present beauty and tangible future. 10,000 lie of rivers and mountains, power over all under heaven, known compared to this moment. Beloved at leisure, lamplight intimate. This was our new beginning, and the finest ending of my life. 5 years ago, Sebastian's perspective, the rain fell in sheets that night, transforming the capital's streets into rivers of mud and darkness. I clutched my side where blood seeped through my fingers, each breath a razor through my lungs. The crimson serpent poison coursed through my veins, like liquid fire, clouding my vision, turning the world into a kaleidoscope of pain and shadow. 20 assassins bearing the mark of the northern kingdoms. Someone within the court had finally made their move. My shadow guards lay dead or dying in that ravine. I'd killed 15 of them myself before the poison took hold. Now I stumbled through rain, slicked alleys, leaving a trail of blood, knowing they'd find me soon. I needed shelter. The world tilted. I fell against a wooden gate that gave way beneath my weight. I tumbled through, landing hard on wet stone. Through the rain, I made out a small courtyard, modest, abandoned, looking. The main house stood dark. Perfect. I'd die here, at least away from prying eyes. Better than giving my enemies the satisfaction of parading my corpse through the streets. I dragged myself toward the covered porch, leaving smears of blood and rain. My fingers found the door, unlocked. Inside, darkness and the scent of medicinal herbs. An apothecary's residence, perhaps, or a physician's. The poison's hallucinations intensified. I saw my mother's face, dead these 10 years, heard my brother's laughter before the plague took him. The empire I'd built with blood and ruthlessness crumbled to ash in my mind. This was how the mighty regent prince would die, alone, poisoned, in a stranger's home. Then I heard footsteps. Who is there? A woman's voice, young but steady. Show yourself. I tried to speak, managed only a rasping cough. Blood flecked my lips. Light bloomed a lantern. Through my deteriorating vision, I saw her. She stood in the doorway of an inner chamber, wearing simple sleeping robes, black hair loose around her shoulders. Even through the poison's haze, I could see her beauty, refined features, clear eyes that held both fear and determination. Those eyes widened as the lantern light revealed me. Blood, soaked, face twisted with pain, clearly dying. A smart woman would scream, a sensible one would run for guards. She did neither. You're poisoned, she said, setting down the lantern and approaching cautiously. Crimson serpent, if I'm not mistaken. You have perhaps an hour before it reaches your heart. How did she know? Who was this woman? Help. Me. I forced the words through clenched teeth, hating the weakness, the desperation in my voice. She hesitated only a moment before kneeling beside me. Her hands, surprisingly steady, began examining my wound. The poison's already spreading. I need to slow it down first. She disappeared into an adjacent room. I heard the sounds of drawers opening, bottles clinking. She returned with an armful of supplies, herbs, needles, bandages. This will hurt, she warned, then pressed something against my wound that sent agony lancing through me. I bit back a scream. Good. The pain means you're still fighting. Her voice remained calm, focused. She worked with practiced efficiency, cleaning the wound, applying poultices, pressing acupuncture needles into points along my meridians. Who are you? I managed. Does it matter? You're dying in my home. The least I can do is try to prevent it. She threaded a needle. This will hurt more. She stitched the wound closed while I gripped the floorboards hard enough to splinter wood. Through the agony, I watched her face, concentrated, gentle, utterly composed. No aristocratic lady I'd ever met possessed such skills or such calm in crisis. The poison, I gasped when she finally finished. Slowed, not stopped. I've bought you time, but you need the full antidote. Crimson serpent originates from the northern kingdoms. The formula isn't commonly known here. She sat back, wiping blood from her hands. I can keep you alive through the night. After that, she didn't finish. She didn't need to. The poison's hallucinations worsened. Her face seemed to shimmer, multiply, reform. But her voice remained constant, an anchor in the chaos. Stay with me, she commanded, gripping my hand. Don't you dare die in my home. Do you know how hard it is to explain a corpse to the magistrate? Despite everything, I almost smiled. This strange woman, treating a dying stranger with needle and thread, making dark jokes as if this were ordinary. What is your name? I asked. Serafina, she answered after a pause. Yours. I should have lied, should have protected my identity. But the poison loosened my tongue, and something in her eyes demanded truth. Sebastian, I whispered. If she recognized the name, she showed no sign. She simply nodded and continued working, mixing some concoction that smelled of bitter herbs and honey. Drink this, it will help with the pain, maybe give you a few more hours. I drank. The mixture tasted vile but brought a wave of clarity, enough to truly see her for the first time. She was beautiful. Yes, but more than that. There was a quiet strength in her bearing, a competence in her movements that spoke of hidden depths. This was no pampered lady playing at medicine. She knew her craft. "You're good at this," I murmured. "My mother was a physician. She taught me before she died." Something flickered in her eyes, old pain, carefully contained. I continued her work, though my father. She stopped, shook her head. "Never mind. Rest now. You'll need your strength." But rest wouldn't come. The poison still burned, and with it came a different kind of heat. Awareness of her closeness, her scent of jasmine and herbs, the gentle touch of her fingers as she checked my pulse. The hallucinations shifted, no longer showing death but something else. Her face, clearer now. Her voice, melodic. The curve of her neck as she leaned over me. No, this was the poison talking. The delirium. I was the regent prince, untouched by women, unmarried by choice and necessity. "I couldn't. Your pulse is racing," she said, frowning. "The poison's affecting your heart already. Lie down properly." She helped me to a sleeping mat, her arms surprisingly strong. As she adjusted my position, her hair fell forward, brushing my face. That scent, jasmine, rain, something uniquely her, filled my senses. "Serafina," I said, catching her wrist. Even I could hear the roughness in my voice now, the edge of something not entirely from poison. "You should leave. Lock me in. It is not safe." "Not safe, you can barely stand." But she understood. Her cheeks colored slightly. "The poison can cause inappropriate reactions, I know. I'll keep watch from the doorway." She moved away, and the loss of her presence felt like a physical ache. The night stretched endless. Hours passed in fever dreams and fragmentary consciousness. Sometimes I saw her sitting in the doorway, silhouetted against lamplight. Sometimes I felt cool cloths on my forehead, water at my lips, her voice murmuring reassurances. Near dawn, the poison reached its crescendo. My body burned. My mind fractured. I reached out, desperate for an anchor, and found her hand. "Don't leave," I begged, all princely dignity abandoned. "Please, don't leave me alone." "I won't." She moved closer, settling beside me. "I'm here, you're not alone." I don't remember clearly what happened next. The poison, the fever, the desperate need for human touch after a lifetime of isolation. It all blurred together. I remember pulling her close, remember her startled gasp, remember trying to explain, to apologize. But words wouldn't come. I remember her saying, "It is all right. It is the poison. It is all right." I remember thinking she was lying. This wasn't all right. Nothing about this was right, but I was drowning, and she was air, and I couldn't let go. What I remember most clearly is her eyes, frightened, yes, but also filled with a compassion I didn't deserve, even as my control shattered, even as I took what shouldn't have been taken. She held me like I was worth saving. When consciousness finally fled completely, her face was the last thing I saw. And in that final moment, through poison and fever and chaos, I felt something I'd never felt before, regret for something I hadn't yet lost. I woke to daylight streaming through unfamiliar windows. My side ached but no longer screamed. The fire in my veins had subsided to ember warmth, alive. Impossibly, I was alive. I sat up slowly, taking stock. My wounds were freshly bandaged. Clean clothes lay folded nearby. Simple garments, obviously borrowed. The room showed signs of careful nursing, water basins, discarded bandages, empty medicine bottles. But no Serafina. I stood, ignoring the weakness in my limbs, and searched the small house. Every room was empty. In the main chamber, I found signs of hasty departure, drawers left open, missing items creating gaps on shelves. She'd fled. Of course she had, a stranger dying in her home. What happened during the night, whether she knew my true identity or not, she'd chosen to run rather than face consequences. On the table, I found a note in elegant script. "The antidote is in the blue bottle. Take it all. Don't stop halfway. The stitches will dissolve on their own. You should leave before anyone sees you here. I'm sorry. Forget this night. Forget me. Forget me. If that were possible, I picked up the blue bottle, drank its contents. Even as the last traces of poison faded, I committed every detail to memory: her face, her voice, her jasmine scent, the way she'd looked at me with compassion instead of calculation. I searched for clues to her identity but found little. A few medical texts with a name inside, property of Sophia. Her mother, perhaps. Some papers that suggested this house belonged to the Marquis Manor's outer estate, but which young lady? The house itself revealed nothing definitive. My shadow guards would find me soon. I needed to return to the Regent Manor, deal with the aftermath of the assassination attempt, root out the traitors. But as I prepared to leave, I made a vow: I would find her, this woman who'd saved my life, who'd shown me unexpected kindness, who'd become entangled with me in the most impossible way. I would find Serafina, and when I did, I didn't know, protect her, compensate her. The proper thing would be to offer marriage, legitimize what had occurred, but I was the regent prince. Marriage was a political tool, not a personal choice. Taking a wife meant creating vulnerabilities, giving enemies leverage. Yet as I stepped out into the morning light, I knew with absolute certainty that I couldn't simply forget her, wouldn't. That night had changed something fundamental. I just didn't realize then that my search would take 5 years, or that when I finally found her, she'd be standing in her family's manor, protecting our son with the same fierce determination she'd shown protecting me. Some things, I suppose, are worth waiting for. Some people are worth moving heaven and earth to find. And when I kicked down those vermilion doors 5 years later, when I saw her standing there with Adrian in her arms, when our eyes met across that hall, I knew that every day of searching had been worth it. My consort, my son, I declared to the room full of fools who dared harm what was mine. You thought you could hide them from me forever. But I wasn't speaking to them. Those words were for her, the woman who'd saved my life, who'd borne my child in secret, who'd suffered alone rather than burden me with knowledge of what that night had created. I'd found her at last, and this time, I would never let her go. End.